Okay, so for this week's lesson, we're going to talk about a popular topic, at least here in the guitar learning community, and that is triads. Anytime I do a video on triads, it always goes over well. There's always a lot of interest in it. And I think the reason for that is because they're easy to play, they're easy to visualize, you can find them pretty quickly, and you can use them in just about anything. You can use them for lead playing, you can use them in your rhythm playing, obviously, and you can use them in a standalone composition, which is what we're going to be doing this week. I have a little blues standalone composition, no jam track needed. You can play this by yourself. It sounds great on its own, and it's all built around triads. What a great way to practice triads by working towards a composition. Here's a little sample of what this sounds like. So in this lesson, you're going to understand where all these triads are and how they work, and you have a composition to work towards. It gives you a goal. So you're not just learning information and then you're out on your own to try and figure out what to do with it. I'm giving you something to do with it. And it sounds good. You can play it for other people, or you can just use it for practice material. So in this video, we're going to go through the first half of that composition. If you'd like to watch the part 2 video where I go over the second half, download the tab PDF file and also access the on-screen tab viewer, which has the tab and the video on the screen at the same time. There's no talking in it. It's interactive. You can highlight sections, you can loop sections, you can slow down playback. It's a great way to learn how to do a composition like this. You can get all these extras for this lesson by going to activemelody.com and doing a search for EP638. All right, so I know most of you know what a triad is and you've used them and you're playing, but if you don't know what it is, it's just a 3-note chord. It's a fancy way of saying a 3-note chord. If I play these 3 notes together, that's a triad. And so you're probably going, okay, I get that 3-note chord, but like, what's the big deal? Why are they so popular? They're so popular because they're all over the fretboard, and if you can connect them back to the cage system shapes, this is where it becomes really powerful. So for example, if I were to play a G chord right here, using the E shape, you know, if I play the full chord and play all 6 strings, it sounds like this. Now that's overkill for most things you're going to do. You don't need all of that. It's a lot of repeated notes. So inside of that shape, I've got, if I look at just strings 1, 2, and 3, I've got this triad. That's a G triad. Underneath that, I've got strings 4, 3, and 2. So that's another G triad. Then I've got strings 5, 4, and 3. That's another G triad. These are just different inversions of the same chord. They're all G chords. But within this one shape here, I've got 3 triads that have different pitches, different, tonalities. And so I have that for each of the shapes from the cage system. So I can come up here and grab a G chord, or here, or up here. And once you can kind of see your G chords all over the fretboard, what it means for me, just sort of an easy way to say it, is you've got representatives. I look at these as representatives for a G chord. So if I'm playing with a band and there's a G in a song, or if I'm looking at a chord chart and there's a G, I'm not just thinking this, I've got G's all over the fretboard. And so I can, depending on what melody I'm trying to play, or the sound and pitch I'm trying to go for, I can just pick and choose. And it makes it a lot easier, and it gives you a lot of options. So that's why, and that's what they are. So this song, let's listen to this first part of this song. The song's going to be in the key of E. It starts on the 4 chord. So it's going to start on an A, Then it's going to go to an A minor. So we're going to go 4, 4 minor, and then to the 1. Let's listen to this first part of these chords, and then we'll break down the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. All right, so let me put the chords up on the screen for this first part. This is just the intro bit, just so you can understand what's going on structurally for the song. So it starts with an A chord, which is the 4 chord for the key of E. And then we go to the minor 4 chord, which is a great little, if you get nothing else out of this lesson, walk away with this takeaway. If you're trying to write a composition and you're trying to figure out a clever way to get from the 4 chord to the 1 chord, or 4 chord back to the 1 chord, whatever, you can always do the minor version of the 4 chord. So A minor, and then to the 1. It's a nice little resolve, isn't it? And then I go to the major 6, and then the major 2, more about that in a minute, then the 5, then back to the 1. So what's the deal with the major 6 and the major 2? Well, when you're talking about the chord structure for a song, the chord family, your 2 chord and your 6 chord are by default minor, but it doesn't mean they have to be. You can make them major, and that's what I did here. And this happens all the time. I didn't come up with this chord progression. You've heard this in a million things. It's kind of an old ragtime sort of style. But you can take your 6 chord, and instead of it being a C sharp minor, I can make it a C sharp major. It actually transforms its meaning. Now that chord is the 5 chord of the 2. Which I made major, so that 2 becomes the 5 chord of the 5 chord, which is our B, and then the 5 chord resolves to the 1 chord. So what you've done then, in essence, is you've played the 5 chord of the 5 chord of the 5 chord of the 1 chord. I know it sounds weird, but that's really what it is when you hear this. And it's all leading to this. It's all leading to a resolve, and it's coming down through a series of tensions and releases. It's kind of a strange sound, probably the first time you hear it. I'm sure it is weird, but we've heard that in other things so many times. So just remember, with a 2 chord and your 6 chord, you can make them major or minor depending on the tension you want to create. All right, so those are the chords we're going to be playing over. And we're going to start with the first 3, that A to an A minor to an E. So as I said earlier, I've got lots of different ways I can play an A chord. I don't have to just do it down here. I've got them all over the fretboard. In fact, I'm going to start up here, this right in the middle of the fretboard. That's my A chord using the E shape. That's where I'm at mentally. It doesn't mean I'm going to play that. I'm just visualizing that. And inside of that, I'm going to play strings 4, 3, and 2. Pretty easy to grab, right? It's just a little stair step shape right in the middle of that chord. And so all I did to start it was I walked up to it like this. That's on the 4th string. 5, 6, 7, and then played the chord. And then I went like this. So there's my A minor. And so to play your minor chord, you just flat the 3. There's my 3. So I just flat the 3. So think of your A minor chord using that E minor shape. That's what we're doing here. So there's my A. And then I play that, and then I put my pinky down on that 7th fret 2nd string and played that. That would make that an A minor 6 chord. So just to make it pretty and interesting. This is another reason, I didn't mention this, another reason that triads are so popular is when you're playing them, your pinky is pretty much always free. You're not using it. You don't need to use so many fingers. And so when your finger is free like that, I can come and grab a little extension and make it sound pretty. I can do things with my pinky like melodically and play melodies. So from the beginning of this, we have our 4 chord to the 4 minor, and then I went to the 1 chord, which is our E. And so quickly I ask myself, where is my nearest E to where I'm at? I don't want to have to come all the way down here and play it. I could, that would be technically correct, but listen to this. Isn't that cool? It's just right next door. And I slid into it. And so what I'm playing is my E chord using the C shape, but I'm only playing strings 4, 3, and 2. Now I'm barring that with my index finger. You don't have to bar that. You could just play that 4th fret 3rd string with your index finger if that's easier for you. To me, it's just easier to bar that. And plus you've got access to that 1st string as well. And so all I did was I took that E triad and I slid into it like that with my ring finger. So starting with my ring finger there on that 5th fret 4th string, slide into place. Now the next thing is we go to that major 6 chord. And to do that, I played this. I did that little walk up like we did for the intro. And I'm gonna do that kind of throughout. And so I know where I'm going. I'm trying to get to this C sharp note. And so I just go down 2 frets and just walk up to it like that. Just make sure you land on that note with your ring finger so that your other fingers can fall into place and play this C7 shape. So like a C7 chord, you just slide it up 1, C sharp 7. So after I played the major 6 chord, we go to the major 2 chord, and it's in this same neighborhood, and I played it like this. Let me show you what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about this. It's just your F sharp chord. F sharp minor is the default 2 chord, but we've made it major, right? We've got the major 3 in there. So that's the chord shape I'm thinking about. Instead of me making that full bar chord though, I'm just gonna grab this same little shape like we did for the A, but I'm gonna hammer on my middle finger from the flat 3 to the 3. That is just a blues technique. You hear the blues guys doing that all the time. Anytime you go into a major chord, well, not anytime, but lots of times when you go into a major chord, you hear the hammer on from the flat 3 to the major 3. So I did that. Then I hit the 1 string with an upstroke, and then watch this. Pinky goes down to get the flat 7 here on that 5th fret 2nd string. And all that did was make my F sharp major chord go to an F sharp 7 by putting that flat 7 in there. So from the beginning we have and then after that, we're going to play the 5 chord, which is our B7, going to the 1 chord, which is our E. Here's how I did the 5 chord. I went. I'll explain what this is. So I started with this, which is actually not a triad. This is just your typical B7 chord down here. And that's, my fingers just kind of fall into this. That's just a natural, I play so much blues in E. It's just such a natural thing to grab. So I hit that once just to establish the sound of the chord. Then I went like this. So let's talk about this. This is interesting. So I'm barring the first 3 strings here on the 4th fret. And then my pinky came up here and grabbed this B note on the 7th fret 1st string. It's kind of a little embellishment. But what's going on there? So this triad, strings 1, 2, and 3 on the 4th fret, think about, pause the video. I would encourage you to do this just to quiz yourself. Why does this work over the B? Why would that triad work? In fact, it's a minor triad. You can see that that's a G sharp minor triad. So if I put a G sharp in the bass, now you hear it as something else. But why does that work over the 5 chord? The reason for that is if I play this minor triad with a B in the bass, I'm playing a B6. This is my B6 chord, and I can take that down 2 frets and play a B9. So you can always take your minor triad down 2 frets to play a 9 chord. And if you want to be able to find this, if you're kind of confused, this is not clear to you, this will clear it up. Check this out. This is coming out of your A shape. So this is my B chord. There's my B note. There's my B chord using the A shape. Look at where my fingers are, 2nd fret, 4th fret. If I play the top 3 strings on the 4th fret, there's my 6th chord, my 6th chord version of the chord I'm trying to play, and here's my 9 chord. And for those of you that are super literal, you're going, well, there's no way that's a B6. You're right, it's not a B6, but in this context, it is. So in the context of a B, and I started by playing a B7, and then I quickly went into that triad, it sounds like a B6. And so you always have to kind of take the literal stuff away when you get into music theory in this realm, because there is no literal in music. It's all relative to something else. This triad would mean something else if another chord was under it. We could turn it into a major 7. We could turn it into all kinds of sounds depending on what it's playing against. So after my 5 chord, I came to my E, which is the 1 chord, and I played it in 1st position. And then after I played it, I just did this little lead kind of fill lick walk down thing. So I played the chord, my pinky goes down on the 2nd fret, 2nd string. I hit 2 of those, lift my pinky, open 2nd string, and then we go 3rd string down to the 4th string. That's all it is. And then watch this. To get us into position to play our E chord up here out of the C shape. So it's just a little walk up. And so that walk up is happening on the 3rd and 4th string. And these first 2 notes are coming out of my E chord in 1st position, strings 3 and 4. And then I'm just going to go into this position where I've got 1 finger on the 4th fret, 4th string, 1 finger on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. We're going to walk that up again, walk that up again. And once I'm up here, I'm in position. All I have to do is add 1 finger, and that's my middle finger on the 5th fret, 2nd string. And look at what I'm playing. I'm playing an E triad. That E triad is inside of the C shape. Just so you can get your bearing. There's an E note here, there's an E note here. And that little walk up is kind of a cool way to go from my E shape up to the C shape. So once we walk from this E chord up to this E chord in this position, I played strings 4 and 3, did an upstroke on the 2nd string. Now I'm starting to create a little bit of a melody here. And then watch this. All right, so after the E, we're gonna slide up to our A chord. And I'm playing my A chord right here. This is where we started, actually. We started this with this. It's strings 4, 3, and 2 out of my A chord using the E shape. And I just started a half step down because my fingers were already there for my E chord. Watch this. And there's my pinky making a melody. This is why triads are so popular. Because I can do things like that. I couldn't do that if I was doing this. Everything's taken. All my fingers are taken. But if I've got a free one, I can play a melody. So, and then I went back to my E chord. And then from this E shape, watch this, I'm going to walk it to an E7 triad. So I'm taking this E chord here, using the C shape, and then I'm going to play this E note here, 5th fret, 2nd string, and along with my E note from the open 1 string. Play those 2 together, and watch this. It's just a little walk down. So 5th fret, down to the 2nd fret. Sounds wrong if you hear it slow, but when you hear it up to tempo, it works. Then I'm going to land here on the 3rd fret, 2nd string with my index finger so that I can play this triad. This is my E7 triad. It's the same as your D7 chord. Think of your D7, walk it up 2 frets. And now I'm playing what represents my E7 chord, because it's got the flat 7 in there. I realize it doesn't have all the notes of an E7 chord. In fact, it's missing an E note, but it's got enough notes to color it in the sound of an E7. And so it's not a literal thing. So anyway, that represents the sound of my E7. All right, so after the E7 triad, we're going to go back to the A chord. I'm going to slide into it. Slide into that A triad that we've already played on strings 4, 3, and 2. And actually, I started with my pinky to play that, but then I came up here and grabbed with my ring finger. Now, I could have done that with my pinky. I find it easier to do this little half bend here, 7th fret, 2nd string. I'm playing that bend along with this A note here. So my index finger just stayed in place the whole time from that triad. And this is just a lick off of this triad. So just remember that is another little thing you can file away. So off of this triad, from your E shape, you've got a little bluesy thing. It's hitting the flat 7. That's why it sounds bluesy. So you just want to do a half bend. You don't want to do a full bend. And then I come back into position and play the E. And I arpeggiated it a little bit like this. And then watch this. I went. So it's time to do another E7. So we do the E, we do an E7, and then to the A. So the first time we went E7 to the A to the E. Now we're going to do another E7. And I just wanted to show you other options. I could have came back and played this E7 again, but why not do an E7 here? This is another way to do an E7. They're all over the place. We'll do one up here in a minute, but what we're doing here is we have our middle finger and ring finger on the 7th fret, strings 1 and 3, and then index fingers on the 5th fret, 2nd string. And I did that same little arpeggio. So from this E to this E7. And I'm just trying to show you some E7 triad options, all in the same neighborhood here. Then the song goes back to the A. Now I'm just going to play strings 1, 2, and 3 out of this E shape, right? Just this little triad here for my A. Using my pinky again on this 7th fret, 2nd string. I keep going back to that for the melody line. All right, so after that A, I did what I did in the intro and played an A minor. Remember in the intro we did that, we went from an A to an A minor. So we're doing that same thing. I'm playing an A minor triad. Look at that, just one finger, strings 1, 2, and 3 on the 5th fret, and I slid into it, played that, and then came up here and hit the 9. That would be like adding like an A minor 9 sound. But again, I'm using my pinky to hit that because that's like my little embellishment finger. And then after that, we're going to go back to the E chord. And here's how I did it. I went. So it sounded like I was doing a lot of stuff. I was really looking at 2 triads. I was thinking about this E triad, the top part of my A shape. So here's my E chord. Using the A shape, here's the top part of that, right? I always like to break these cage system things into parts like this. And so that's that little triad that lives at the top part of my A shape. And then we're going to look at that one, and we're going to look at this one. That's my, that looks like a D chord in first position. That's another way of playing an E chord. There's my E note. And up here, there's my E note where my middle finger is. So just picture those two triads as you hear this next lick. So you can see what's happening there is I'm just playing two notes. I'm taking the triad and breaking it down further into little harmonies. Hitting that, and then I'm coming down to this shape. Strings 2 and 3 out of this D chord shape. And then strings 2 and 3. So, and then I came down like this, right? Now we're back to kind of where we started. There's my E chord using that out of that C shape. Hopefully you're connecting that. You're going, oh yeah, I'm seeing it now, right? So that's all that little harmonized lead thing was. It was just looking at two triads and just going between them and walking down. It sounds cool when you do it like that, right? But when you just see it as triads, it's like, oh, it's really not that complicated. That's why triads are so powerful. They're guidelines for where you should be playing. All right, so I'm going to end this part 1 video right there. I think that's a good stopping point. And then come join us at part 2 where we'll go over the second half. And remember, you can download the tab PDF file and also access the on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive. It's a great way to learn how to do these things. And I hope you take this composition and use this as a way to practice. But while you're practicing, don't just memorize something for the sake of memorizing. I want you to think about what's going on and think about all these triads and see them, really understand them. Because once you can do that, you can start making compositions like this yourself. They're not that complicated. You can also start using these triads when you solo, when you play rhythm. There's so much use you can get out of seeing these triads, and they're really all just connected to the cage system shapes. If you like this lesson, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment and let me know if you've had any breakthroughs. I always love reading them. I do read through all of them. If you've got any questions, you can leave those as well. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would encourage you to do that because I put out lessons like this every week, and I've been doing it for about 16, 17 years. I'm pretty punctual about it too. I don't miss a Friday. All right, we'll see you in the part 2 video.